From Augie's locker room, just off the Notre Dame campus in South Bend, Indiana, welcome to the Spirit of Knute. I'm Len Clark of Irish 101, next to author Jeff Harrall of the book, As God's Witness, The Death of Knute Rockne. In our last episode, Jeff, we talked about the plane crash. It was March 31st, and now you're coming in after the death of Knute Rockne, and it was a very sad day as Notre Dame really had to make a transition. And here's a coach that really had a lot to do in shaping college football, as we know. And you were on Ian Punnet's Coast to Coast AM show recently talking about Knute Rockne. And I know Ian was talking about Knute Rockne in that era of gangsters, if he had been approached by gangsters in terms of point shaving or what have you. And it was actually pointed out in the movie Knute Rockne All-American that Rockne had nothing to do with them. He wanted them out of his circle. In your research, what have you found?
Rockne had a radio show on Saturday mornings where he would give like scouting reports of college games that day. He would give of the teams that he knew about, and he would give basically a scouting report on them. That show was one of the most popular shows in Chicago, listened to by every gangster from Capone all the way down, who was gambling on football and gambling on the college games. And Al Capone was no stranger to South Bend. I mean, one of his favorite bars was the Martha's Midway Tavern and Dance Hall, in Mishawaka, a tavern, by the way, that Knute Rockne also frequented. You go there today, and you've got Capone's picture right next to Rockne's picture, right up in the front doorway there.
But we can see how people might have said, well, if he had inside information, it might be an easy way to make some money.
Absolutely. And Knute Rockne was a man of principle. That was the one main thing that in all the research I did for these books, for Rockne of Ages and As God's Witness, Rockne was a man of principle. And he wanted in no way, and I told Ian Punnett this, in no way, shape, or form was he involved with the mob. And in no way, shape, or form. He didn't even want them at the games. He couldn't control it. But he absolutely set himself aside, and his team and the school, from anything mob related, and especially since Capone was such a seminal figure, not only in Chicago but here. I mean, Capone. There's photos of Capone at Notre Dame games at Old Cartier Field. I can't stress that enough, and that was one of the things going into this book that I was getting from indirectly from some members of the family and some Rockne stalwarts, shall we say? They were like, "Oh no, we can't do that. We can't. The mob didn't. This plane had nothing to do with the mob, or we don't want Rockne anywhere linked to the mob." Rockne is not linked to the mob at all. Rockne, in this case, I believe, was an innocent victim.
And in the movie Knute Rockne All-American, there's that scene where Rockne actually throws out an individual who was betting on games and didn't want anything to do with it. Why would he? It would rip down everything that he had built.
Everything he had built. And he was building a national. He was the first coach in football, the first figure in football, professional, college, otherwise, to take his team nationally from coast to coast. The NFL was in the 20s. The NFL had started in 1920, and the NFL was strictly at the time Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, Fort Wayne. I mean, strictly in the Midwest, at Canton, until it spread out. By that time, Notre Dame was already going to New York to play Army every year, the Yankee Stadium. They were going out west to play Stanford, his buddy Pop Warner. And Rockne had way, way too much to lose, and he was way too intelligent of a man to have anything to do with alcohol.
So we put that to bed. No ties to the mob. I know where Ian Punnett was going. He's a big Chicago historian, and one to maybe learn a little bit more, and there was no story there. He basically nipped it in the bud, saying, we run a clean program, we're going to keep it that way.
I'm glad Ian did bring it up, by the way, because it gave me a chance to completely throw it out.
Well, Jeff, another thing that really struck me as you did this project is the number of people that have really reached out to you that want to help share your story. And I know with the anniversary of the Rockne death back on March 31st, a lot of individuals have really helped you spread the word about your book and what your goal is.
That's amazing. It really is. It started with my piece in Notre Dame magazine that led into the book. I did an exclusive piece. It had nothing to do. It wasn't an excerpt from the book, but it was an exclusive piece, an overall piece that I did. That was published 2 years ago tomorrow. 2 years ago tomorrow, by the way. Kerry Temple at Notre Dame magazine was an early supporter of this story. He told me, he just said, "You go get them." He said, "This, this is a story that really needs to be told, and your research and everything is just coming from Kerry, coming from an editor, one of my, and I have the utmost respect for Kerry, and Notre Dame magazine, and coming from him, that was huge. Keith Olbermann, Keith Olbermann, amazing stuff. Alex Painter, my buddy Alex Painter, Onward to Victory.
That you met here at Augie's.
Who I met here at Augie's, who's a wonderful writer himself, has a great book on the Negro Leagues in Richmond. He has just been I'm just overwhelmed by the support that he's given me on his, on his social media circles. Ian Punnett had me on the show before the book came out last year, and this is the second time I was with Ian Punnett. Ian also is a broadcast media professor at Kansas State University, and his students are doing a project on the book, which I believe is set to air today on the 90th anniversary of the crash. And in Kansas, I mean, how appropriate is that? The crash happened in Kansas, and here's these kids 90 years later, learning about this seminal event for the first time, as is everybody else. And then today, your buddy Philip Houck has published an excerpt from the book on the grounding of the plane that was turned over, and the chapter Non-Grounded. And Phil has been really, the past couple of days, I can't thank him enough.
I think what's really interesting is that everybody shares a passion for Notre Dame and Knute Rockne, and just like you, they're trying to find more of the story.
Right.
And I think that's the exciting thing. So once again, if you have any stories that have been passed down through the years through your family or friends of Notre Dame, reach out to Jeff or Augie at Augie's Locker Room to help us continue to tell the story, because it's very controversial in some aspects, but you're an investigative journalist, and what we're doing is trying to find the truth, and we'd like to find out any of the missing pieces.
It's newsworthy.
It is newsworthy, and it's very opportune right now with just celebrating the 90th anniversary of Knute Rockne's death.
Yes.
So the book is called As God's Witness, the Death of Knute Rockne, but it's more than just a book about Knute Rockne. It is a story, a historical piece about what was happening back in the early 1930s.
And very, very late 20s, where Chicago was ruled by the mob.
And Jeff, where can people find the book?
Spiritofknute.com, which is our website. You can order Rockne of Ages, which is the hardcover deluxe edition with more than 300 rare historical photographs, and Rockne's life in his own words. As God's Witness, the Death of Knute Rockne is the paperback, and the ebook is available in the paperback and ebook. And that's the condensed version, more like the story of the crash and the legacy. Amazon, go on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We're even being sold, from what I understand, in Vietnam, in Ireland, in Japan. It's right now we've got a good distribution around the world, with Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and spiritofknute.com being the main arteries.
And also going to augieslockerroom.com as well. And if you have a question, maybe asking a question about Knute Rockne, how can they get in touch with you?
spiritofknute.com. We have an email. My email is jharrell6468@gmail.com. They can contact me there or contact us through spiritofknute.com. One other person I want to thank, Augie himself. Augie has been the seminal. Augie's my guy. And you got to visit Augie's locker room. If you're a Notre Dame fan and you don't visit Augie's locker room, there's something really, really important missing in your life.
He's Jeff Harrall. And speaking of Augie, we're going to come up with Augie's segment to take a look at some Notre Dame football memorabilia.
Irish fans, Augie here again. Just a few pieces, really tremendous pieces we have on the new website, augieslockerroom.com. Up front is the Four Horsemen authenticated by Beckett and PSA, and it includes Grantland Rice's authenticated signature also. So we have the Four Horsemen, Stuhldrayer, Crowley, Layden, and Miller, all beautifully framed, professionally framed. This piece here is going to be on our website soon. 3 of the Heisman Trophy winner mini helmets signed, authenticated. You got Horning, Lou Jack, and Tim Brown. A piece that I think would be something that every collector of Notre Dame history would want, and this was the Heisman Trophy winners lithograph, signed by all 7 of the Heisman Trophy winners. And it's a piece that you can get here at Augie's Locker Room also, and that's on our website. You'll see that if you go into augieslockerroom.com. Another beautiful piece that I purchased in the 96-97 auction at Notre Dame when they renovated the stadium is it would be a box, a first aid box that was in the stadium, and it was in the concourse area in the first aid room. And this piece here is on our website, augieslockerroom.com. Just a few pieces that we offer on the new website. So check it out. We are adding new items on every day. And so we appreciate all of you going in and helping us out, buying something on augieslockerroom.com, and hope we have the season that we're expecting, and that we get all you fans into the stadium. So we're just going to hope that things get back to some normal, and we'll see all of you this fall. Go Irish!